This movie is the Diet John Wick. It doesn't do anything particularly as well as the original films in terms of the story, certainly when it comes to the first two movies, or the action, or the world building. Matter of fact, it contradicts the world building of the original movies. And Ana de Armas, while I think she's a good actress, picked a few bad projects over the years, she's let down by the material. She's not the Baba Yaga, and I know she's not supposed to be, but at the same time, it's noticeable when Keanu Reeves is better in the action scenes than her. And even though you say, like, you address the inevitable criticisms people would have by lampshading, bringing up the criticisms themselves, you don't actually address the criticisms through the action or through the narrative. And so I'm just kind of left being mildly entertained by this movie, but in the end, disappointed. Let's go ahead and move on to my review for Ballerina. Excuse me, that's not the actual title of the movie. Actually, the title of the movie is From the World of John Wick Comes a Ballerina. I hate the title, by the way. It's so long and so obnoxious. It's like, listen, you can easily indicate that this movie is a part of the John Wick series just through the marketing, which is what they've been doing. Like in all the trailers, they even say in the world of John Wick is in it. Keanu Reeves is struggling to say words throughout the entire film. Like, he's in the movie. It's part of his world. Like, they'll pick up on certain things. So I just hate it when the studios or the marketing team are always like, listen, the audience are they're so stupid. Like, they're so dumb. They just won't have any idea. Like, we need to dub it down for them. We need to make sure that they know this is part of it. So just make a really obnoxiously long title to say, which I'm happy. I am very happy to make fun of every time I bring up the film or if I'm reviewing it. So really, before jumping into my overall thoughts on this film, and I have a lot of thoughts about this movie, I do want to just kind of share my opinions and thoughts on the John Wick franchise itself and really its impact on action films over the last decade. It's so crazy. We recently did a watch party for the original, John Wick, Chapter 1, as it's called now. And even though everyone, loves Keanu Reeves at this point, he's breathtaking, all that, I lived through the era of everyone hating him. Okay, this was after the Matrix sequels kind of petered out, and he was starring in a lot of films. They didn't do very well, or they were bad, or he was just really bad in them. I don't think he's the best actor in the world. I don't think it's a controversial statement to make, but people were like, no, Keanu Reeves sucks. He's terrible. And John Wick really turned that around for him by leaning into the things that he's really good at, which is being an action star. He's really great at the physical aspects of acting, I suppose, of these types of movies. That's on full display in the first John Wick, although that movie still brings, I think, a lot of fun story elements and world building to it. I think, there are some emotional moments that Keanu Reeves, I think for the most part, handles fairly well. And that first film really revitalized his career and spawned a huge action, franchise. I'm one of the weirdos that thinks that the first two John Wick films are the best ones. I think they had a nice balance of story and character and world building and really great action. I think maybe 2's my favorite, followed by closely by 1, but I think they're interchangeable. I think they're both great. And I don't know, I know everyone, a lot of people love 3 and 4. I'm not the biggest fan of 3 and 4. 3 just felt like we're kind of spinning our wheels. It's the one that I think is the least interesting. It's just all right, that movie's just we're just setting up an action scene to get to the next action scene, to the next action scene, then to the end. And the fourth one, which is the finale, even though it's not, obviously, they're already working on the fifth one at this point. It's okay. While I think it's better than the third one, John Wick does not need to be over 3 hours long. That is ridiculous. I don't think any action movie needs to be over 3 hours long. I felt it watching that film, even though there's a lot of great filmmaking on display, a lot of great action scenes on display. It's just this movie doesn't need to be this goddamn long. It's annoying to me. But overall, it's a really exciting, fun action franchise, especially those first 2 movies. And its impact on the action genre is obvious. I mean, so many action films that have come out since, the first few movies have all felt like they're in the world of John Wick. They have the same sensibilities, the style of action, the choreography, the gun fu, if you will. The camera that it's a nice medium or wide shot, and you're seeing these actors and these stunt guys and gals perform these incredible feats. But at the same time, because everything just feels like John Wick, everything starts to feel a little redundant, a little repetitive. So there is that. I wish there was a greater diversity when it came to action films nowadays. It's very different from the action films of the 1980s, which I kind of have a nostalgic yearning to return to, at least, some of those films. But its obvious impact in the genre is apparent, and the John Wick film franchise, continues to be one of the most successful action franchises of all time. It's earned its place. There's no doubt about that. I don't deny that. And it's spawned some really interesting and fun films. Now, when the Ballerina was announced as a spinoff, it was like, well, obviously they want to continue to expand this property, and Keanu Reeves can't do this forever. I think the man's like, in his 60s now. He's about to be 60, and even though he's incredibly impressive doing all these scenes, like, his body just won't be able to keep up with it. So it's like, yeah, you want to establish other characters in the franchise. But when it was announced, I was like, okay, that's cool. And they're going to get Ana de Armas to star. I was like, oh, that's cool. She's always been kind of like this up-and-coming actress. Like, she still hasn't had that, like, huge break that really made her, like, a massive star. She starred in dramas and genre films, but, like, nothing has really, like, put over that next level. She's also kind of had a number of misses over the years. Some stuff I've seen, some other stuff I have seen, like... The Marilyn Monroe biopic she did like a couple years ago was a travesty. First of all, she was woefully miscast. I don't know if you guys knew this, but apparently Marilyn Monroe had a Cuban accent. She was part Cuban. Who would have thought? But an awful film. But she's been good in other things. Really enjoyed her in No Time to Die. And that's a movie I don't like at all, really. But she was one of the parts of that film that really stood out. I was like, oh, wow, yeah. James Bond movies are supposed to be fun. They're not supposed to be like an obnoxious slog, which is so much of No Time to Die was. It was like, oh, she's a great character. It was like, oh, this is why I enjoy James Bond franchise, when they bring in really fun characters, especially that have a lot of chemistry with whoever's playing James Bond at the time. I thought she stood out. So I was like, okay, getting her for this. I was like, oh, yeah, she can be a natural fit for this world. But we heard about all the behind-the-scenes controversies. The fact that this movie is directed by Len Wiseman, that was a major red fucking flag. Because Len Wiseman, as a director, is terrible. Len Wiseman is, I think, one of the worst directors working today. He's responsible for a lot of the Underworld films, Live Free or Die Hard, the PG-13 Die Hard movie. He also directed the remake of Total Recall, which is, to me, one of the worst remakes of all time. That movie sucks. It's so fucking boring. Like, I saw in the theater, and there's just so little I remember about the movie, especially compared to the original 90 Paul Verhoeven, Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall, which is such a fun sci-fi action film. It's like, Len Wiseman decided, like, hey, let's remove all the fun, all the interesting action, the personality, and make that the Total Recall movie. And the guy sucks. And this movie was delayed for a year. And Chad Stahelski, who was the director of the 4 John Wick movies, apparently came in and reshot most of the movie. He has like a story credit in this. He has a producer credit on this. And I think we honestly have like a Steven Spielberg, Tobe Hooper, Poltergeist situation where, yeah, Len Wiseman, he directed a Ballerina movie, or excuse me, From the World of John Wick Comes Ballerina movie. But this is Chad Stahelski's movie. I think that's what's happened here. But all that aside, the franchise itself, its legacy, the spinoff, the controversies behind the scenes. So, how is the film? It's fine. It's okay. It's definitely the weakest film in the John Wick series. I'm not saying it's terrible, but it doesn't add anything new or very interesting to the world of John Wick, which just makes it, I mean, really, in hindsight, thinking about it just right now, just feel really inconsequential to the grand scheme of things. And what they want to do is just keep the franchise alive and going. Like this, I don't think this is the way to do it. Now, the overall plot of the film, the story itself, which is one of the weaker aspects of the movie, it's like, whatever. You have Ana de Armas. She stars as this character named Eve. She's the daughter of these 2 assassins. Mother's dead. Father's raising her in exile. He's running away from this evil organization that's literally called The Cult. Who apparently, chat, they don't follow any of the rules. Despite this franchise and how it has these established rules that all these different communities follow, and with the high table and the continental and things, for whatever reason, all these organizations just let the cult operate despite them never, ever adhering to the rules whatsoever. More on that in just a bit. The cult, goes after them, ends up killing the dad. And then little Eve, she's rescued by good old Winston, played by Ian McShane, who takes her to the same organization that trained John Wick when he was a kid, made him the Baba Yaga, the Ruska Roma, right? Where Eve meets the director, played by Angelica Houston, and her training montage ensues until eventually she becomes a ballerina, essentially an assassin. To highlight the good parts of this movie, there is some very impressive action and choreography in this film, especially when it involves explosives, when it involves grenades and flamethrowers, fire itself, right? Like the ways in which Eve uses grenades throughout the entire film for these action sequences, like literally shoving grenades in people's mouths and down their pants and up their buttholes, and them just popping like, fleshy water balloons, limbs going over the place. Like, that, I think, is when the movie is at its strongest, when people are blowing up in horrific, meaty explosions. That's pretty good. And there's a lot of stuff done, especially in the latter half of the film, with flamethrowers, flamethrower versus flamethrower, flamethrowers versus fucking, high-powered fire hoses, That's really cool. It's like I'm watching a battle between firebenders and waterbenders at one point in the film, like Avatar: Last Airbender. And I think that was impressive. Like, when we're focused on the action, when people aren't really talking, when we're not really getting into the story, then it's like, it's fun. It's fun to sit back, relax, see how it all plays out, this entire sequence. That's great. Kind of the things I'm more mixed on this film is, honestly, Ana de Armas. Like, again, as I said, I like her as an actress. I feel like some of the projects that she's picked, the material that she's given, has underserved her. I think it underserves her here. I do like her character, and I do like her. I like her performance overall, but her story is just not interesting. We've seen this story of vengeance. I lost my whole family. I gotta swear revenge against this evil organization. There's a twist that involves my family that I was not privy to, even though the movie just makes it so fucking obvious what it's going to be. You're just like, and it's like, it's a big reveal. It's like, I already knew that based on the first 5 minutes of the film, but okay. So all the narrative stuff with her, all the character stuff with her, it's fine. It's serviceable at best, but her charm, her grit, that's what really, I think makes her likable throughout the film, at the very least, somewhat interesting. But again, the material is just not there for her. And the other thing is like, and it's not fair, because the movie is also saying, like, this character of the ballerina, of Eve, like, she's not John Wick, she's not Baba Yaga, she's not supposed to be, right? You can't, that guy is, as they say in the movie, he's a fucking legend. He's the Grim Reaper. He's everything that you've heard and more, okay? He's a dark fucking specter, a dark god of death, and you do not fuck with him. And if you do at your own risk, and you're probably gonna fucking die. Unless he likes you. Unless he's like, I also am seeking revenge, so I'm not gonna kill you. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna hurt you a little bit. I'm not gonna hurt you that bad, right? And so it's like, that's a part of it. Like, she's not supposed to be the super assassin that he is. However, and listen, as you guys know, I'm happy to criticize Keanu Reeves and his acting this is not great. Keanu Reeves, he is consistently inconsistent with the English language, Chad. For whatever reason, as we get more entries into this franchise, he continues to struggle to say words, English words. It's rough for him. I don't know what happened. Because in the first two films, although there are some moments where it's like, all right, that's a little rough, we could maybe done that over again. I think his performance is pretty solid, is actually pretty good in those first two movies. But for whatever reason, and John Wick 3 and 4, I think he gets worse and worse and worse. And it's kind of the same here, sadly. But the one thing that I always praise Keanu Reeves for, I think we all praise him for, is just he is fucking fantastic at the action and the choreography and these hand-to-hand fight scenes and the gun fu and the gun kata. I mean, all of this stuff. It's a sight to behold. It's very, very impressive. And it's him. It's mostly him. And you buy it. Like, those medium shots, I'm like, is there a stunt double involved? I can't fucking tell. I feel like there's not. But there's a lot of scenes in this movie where Ana de Armas, she's a little stiff. She's not as fluid, doesn't have the same flow as Keanu Reeves in these action scenes. You know, it's like, all right, well, they're clearly, we're shooting some stuff where it's like, is that Ana de Armas or is it not? Is that the stunt double that just came in? It's like, and I understand narratively, it's like she's not supposed to be as good as John Wick, obviously, but there are scenes where it just doesn't look as good, you know? And listen, she's not an action star, you know? I mean, she's more of a, you know, a typical actress. Nothing wrong with that. But, you know, we've come to expect, I think, a higher level of action when it comes to the John Wick franchise. Not saying she's bad, not saying it's egregious, but it is a little noticeable at times. And the rest of the cast, too, like, they're there. They're there, you know. Great to see Lance Reddick, appearing for the last time, apparently, as his character, the concierge of the Continental. I really like that. Lance Reddick, who was a wonderful actor, great character actor, taken way before his time. Consistently appearing in these films. It was nice to see him again. But he's doing the same thing he typically does. That's what's asked of him. You got Ian McShane. He's being Ian McShane as Winston. You know, he's doing it like, Keanu Reeves is, well, he's John Wick. He's struggling to say words, but he's really good at the action stuff. Angelica Houston, who I mentioned before, she shows up again as her character, kind of the one that, is in charge of the ballerinas and training them, of course. We do have some new characters in the movie. Gabriel Byrne, I've never liked Gabriel Byrne as an actor. I don't think he's a very good actor. I really don't. He's essentially the main villain of this film, and I'm just like, man, we could have picked like maybe a more charismatic character actor to play the villain for this franchise, the leader of this organization called the Cult, who doesn't follow any of the rules, and you get like milquetoast Gabriel Byrne. I'm sorry to be mean, and again, the material they write for him isn't that great. But when they write up a scene, like his first introduction scene where he's supposed to be super intimidating, and when they attack the fucking compound of Eve's father and everything, and it's like, all right, here we go, we're gonna get the big scene. I'm just like, oh, give me a break. This guy's a fucking wet noodle. I'm not intimidated by him. He's giving me an ultimatum like, you can do one of two things, all right, Buster? You can either shoot yourself and save your daughter, or you could shoot me and you're both dead. I've been like, I would have shot him. I would have instantly shot him. Like, I think I'll take my chances. I think I'll be fine. Gabriel Byrne, I just don't think he's a very good actor. Norman Reedus is in the movie for a little bit, and Norman Reedus is, guess what, Chad? He's playing Norman Reedus. Not a lot. His action scene, I think, isn't very well done either. I think it's kind of a letdown, one of the weaker aspects of the film. I want to spoil too much of his role if you are interested in the narrative or his role in the cult, but he's basically a cult member that's trying to escape the cult, chat. A lot of people want to escape this fucking cult because they kind of suck. They're really, really shitty, all right? Because they don't really follow any rules, and they get themselves in trouble quite often in this film. But yeah, when it comes to the performances themselves, like, they're either fine, or it's like, why are you even here? Why are you even here? Can we have done something a little bit better? And when it comes to the downright bad aspects of the film, the story is, as I said at the top, it's just bland. It takes a while to get going. Like, we go through the whole training of Eve and the kid. Eve isn't really the best actor in the world. It's a little rough. And there was just so many times while watching this movie. I don't know all the behind the scenes. I know that they had a lot of issues with Len Wiseman. They had to reshoot a ton of stuff of the original filmmaker of John Wick, of course. But I'm like watching this movie, and like I'm just kind of thinking about Eve's like origin story. I'm thinking, like, was this originally supposed to be a prequel? It's sort of a prequel, where it takes place before the events of John Wick. I think during the events of 3 and 4, maybe. I don't know. At this point, I don't think even they know. But so much of Eve's story, it's like this kind of feels similar, sounds similar to the bits and pieces that we've gotten of John's story, where he was taken in by the the Ruska Roma and trained to be the Baba Yaga, and he went through a very difficult process, became like about fucking death itself and Grim Reaper, and it's like Eve's story is very similar. I'm just like, was this originally envisioned as a prequel? And they're like, let's not do a prequel because it's going to be hard to live up to Keanu Reeves. People are going to be comparing whoever the new actor is to Keanu Reeves. So let's just make it a spin-off movie, a new character completely. I don't know. There's just something about it. That just gave me that kind of vibe because the story, it takes a while to get going. It's not doing anything interesting. And as I said, it feels so much like John Wick, but it's just in the shadow of John Wick constantly. The film also does a lot of lamp shading too, which really bothers me. So they established that, Ana de Armas' character of Eve, like she's a woman and she's not going to be able to do the same physical feats as men in the movie, right? They say like, you're going to have to play smarter. You're going to have to be meaner. You got to, make use of any type of advantage you can. You got to be scrappy as all hell. You got to fucking gouge his eyes out. You got to rip his dick off, all right? That's what you got to do, all right? You got to be like a fucking feral cat, right? That's how they describe it. You got to be crazy. And they never do any of that. They just don't. Like, they say all these things. That's what it is, what's lampshading is. Like, we're going to address a flaw, a cliche, an issue. We're just going to state it as like, yeah, we know, but we're not going to address it actually in the plot narratively or in like a physical sense. It's just, well, we mentioned it, so that's good enough. And I'm like, no, it's not good enough. You're going to have to address it because she's just doing the same things that John Wick does, just not as good. And I guess unless you count the grenades and the flamethrower stuff. And so that kind of, that annoyed me. that I thought was consistently inconsistent throughout the film. And then the cult itself, like, now we got to the point in the franchise, because John Wick has established a set of rules. Like, these are the do's and these are the don'ts. Like, if you break the rules of the Continental, you break the rules of the High Table, you're fucked. And we saw that of John Wick himself, where he gets a bounty placed on his head. He's excommunicado, as they love to say, right? We're throwing every resource we can at you until, they fucking come up with a new rule or whatever, which they kind of did in the fourth one, right? But in the establishment of the cult fucking sucks in this movie. Like, I don't really understand them. Like, the cult is an organization that everyone knows about and works with and is allied with, except when the cult betrays them. But the cult, like, doesn't follow the rules of the Continental. The cult doesn't follow the rules of the High Table. So, like, why the fuck are they around? Why are they allowed to operate? Shouldn't we just eliminate them? Because there are other, like, organizations, as we see in the franchise, that are far more powerful than the cult. The High Table is more powerful than the cult. So why don't we just get rid of them? Like, it just doesn't make any sense in the context of the world that you've established for 4 movies. And so now you're just contradicting yourself. And I'm just like, so does it matter? I mean, and that's what happens when you get to the point when the franchise gets so big and you've established rules, but then it's like, whatever. Action, here you go. Ana de Armas, she's naked. It's like, but I understand those, and those are nice. But you're contradicting what you're doing. You're not being consistent. That's frustrating. That's disappointing. And when it comes down to it, honestly, this movie is the Diet John Wick. It doesn't do anything particularly as well as the original films in terms of the story, certainly when it comes to the first 2 movies, or the action, or the world building. Matter of fact, it contradicts the world building of the original movies. And Ana de Armas, while I think she's a good actress, picked a few bad products over the years, she's let down by the material. She's not the Baba Yaga, and I know she's not supposed to be, but at the same time, it's noticeable when Keanu Reeves is better in the action scenes than her. And even though you say, like, you address the inevitable criticisms people would have by lampshading, bringing up the criticism themselves, you don't actually address the criticisms through the action or through the narrative. And so I'm just kind of left being mildly entertained by this movie, but in the end, disappointed. If this is the future of the John Wick franchise, in terms of the spinoffs, I know they're going to do a 5th one. They're going to bring John Wick back. Maybe that's why, because they knew they were like, listen, this isn't going to cut it. Continental, that show, which I never bothered to watch. I mean, no one bothered to watch it. Got canceled after 1 season. This movie apparently was a shit show behind the scenes. So they're like, I don't know if this is going to work out. I don't think they're going to make a sequel of this, even though they kind of set it up for like a sequel. Even ends similarly to the other John Wick movies, especially the second one. I don't know how you're going to keep it alive unless you just keep making more John Wick sequels with Keanu Reeves. This is just not the way to do it. And so, yeah, it's not, I mean, I don't know. I have more criticisms than positives to point out. Like the action moment to moment is fun, but it's just a shadow of the four movies. It's the weakest of the John Wick films. So yeah, I was disappointed by the Ballerina. Excuse me. From the world of John Wick comes the Ballerina. But what about you guys? What did you think of the film? Did you actually really like it? You thought it was actually a great spinoff? Were you more mixed on it? Did you kind of just, like me, or just disappointed by this movie? Didn't think it was as good in really any capacity? Let me know.
5 minutes later.
That's a big clue to how much this movie got delayed is watching Lance Reddick's scene and then doing the math and going, oh, fuck, he died at the start of 2023 and he shot that well back. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yellow Burn's best movie, The Usual Suspects. Everyone else is still better than him in that. I agree. He's not a good actor. He's never been a good actor. He's not good in this either. Is it the same call from Jim Cotta? I hope so. I would love it if it's the same call from Jim Cotta. That'd be great. It would make sense. It would make so much sense. I guess Miller's Crossing is his best role. Rest in peace, Lance Reddick. He's always been good in these John Wick movies. Also really good in Oz. Oh, of course. He's great as Thordak in The Legend of Vox Machina. I just assumed Stileski came in and redid the action stuff and all the dialogue stuff was Meisman. I would guess so. I mean, at this point, like, I assume so. Because the best stuff is the action stuff. If I had to choose, because all the narrative things is like, I don't like this. It's boring. It's boring. Wick doesn't even need to be in the movie. 100%. Like, you could cut all of his stuff out and it would be the same fucking film. It would be the same movie. And I honestly thought, like, oh, he's not in it all that much, like, in the very beginning. Because there's two big separate moments. You're at the beginning where he's like, just don't do this. Don't seek revenge. He's like, how can you say that? He's like, all right, fair enough. And then later on where he's like, all right, I'm here to fucking... It definitely reshoots. 100% reshoots when it's like, we need a big action scene. You cut all the scenes down, nothing but the story would change. Yeah, that's correct. That Donnie Yen one is apparently up next. Hopefully that one's better. I hope so, because I like his character in 4. And I'm not even the biggest fan of 4, but he was a big standout. Him and the tracker and his pup. So I'm hoping that's better. I just don't get Len Wiseman directed. He's not a good filmmaker. I don't understand why they didn't get in Ila Nashuler, the Nobody director, to make this movie. That would have been good. Nobody is so interesting because it's one of the best John Wick movies that's not connected to the franchise. Like, it's not in the same world. Like, it should be. I would just retcon and be like, yeah, it's part of the same fucking franchise. That's what I would do. I'm surprised they haven't done that. I would fucking have Keanu Reeves cameo in that. Be like, oh shit, there you go. Like, that's a better spinoff of John Wick than this is. I had a lot more fun with that film. 100%. Nothing much for me to say here, but it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's like, I was entertained watching but the days since I've kind of forgotten. But yeah, you just don't remember it. Glee, you think it's good. Good to have you here. Need more than a spinoff to get me in the theaters these days. Didn't even see John Wick 4. A lot of people like the movie. I was not as over the moon about it. Like, there's things I do enjoy about John Wick 4, but I think the first two are much better. Now, the question is the movie better than Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning? They have... Oh, so this movie is long. I should have mentioned. This movie is 2 hours. I'm like, I don't think it needs to be 2 hours long. This is a 2 hour movie. I'm like, this is way too long. The fact that I'm thinking about it really... I did not like Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. I think the action scenes in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning are really cool, especially the sub sequence. It's not really an action scene. It's more of like a thrilling sequence, right? And then the plane scene is well done. But I think there's more interesting action in this movie than in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, because there's a lot of nothing happening in that movie in Final Reckoning. There's a lot of just like, what the fuck are we even doing? Like, if you were to ask me which one I would rather watch, I'll be honest. I'd rather watch this again. I 100% rather watch this again than The Final Reckoning. But I'm not particularly fond of either film, So, yeah. Yeah. The question, I just read that. So I guess, that's your answer. So I guess, I have to pick this one. Chris, I thought it was okay because of the Wick first movies, least engaged in story of villains and snooze. Yep, and Wick doesn't need to be there. Yep, but I don't know, there's fucking dudes up with a sword, grenades, ice skates, and a flamethrower is going to be up there for a fair amount. I think the only reason nobody in Atomic Blonde or all the other movies that Leitch produces or directs aren't in reverse is because they were made at other studios. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the reason why. Excuse me. Or is this assassin movie where the character goes on a rampage over a bad coupons? We need that. And know what? Throw the Monkey Man and Atomic Blonde in this world as well. Yeah, and that's another one. It's like Atomic Man. That's the other thing. We do have the wickification of action films over the last few years, but a lot of them, in my opinion, have just not been that great. Like Monkey Man was disappointing to me, honestly, especially the first half of that movie where the action was, I think, badly filmed. The second half is stronger, but I was like, yeah. And Atomic Blonde was, again, Charlize Theron. It's so funny too. Like, I should have mentioned this in the main portion of the review, but I feel like Charlize Theron would have been a better fit for the Ballerina, honestly, than Ana de Armas. I feel like she could have pulled out the action stuff a bit better, and she would have had that grit too that I think is necessary for this character, that weatheredness, that I would have liked a little bit more. Yeah, I think Charlize Theron would have been a better fit. Like, Ana de Armas, again, she's not bad, but it's, just not as good. I'd rank Reckoning and Ballerina about the same, but different issue. Sure, I wouldn't disagree with that. One thing people really want is John Wick to meet the Equalizer. Why? I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at just the idea of that because, listen, John Wick would beat the fuck out of the Equalizer. It wouldn't even be a fucking fair match. In the third film, Denzel Washington sits down for most of the movie. He's in a chair for, I would say, 75% of that film. There's no fucking way. There's I'm like, maybe him as a member of the High Table or something, sure, but you're not going to get an action scene with them. And Denzel Washington is an amazing actor. He's one of the greatest, living actors, even though maybe I haven't liked some of his more recent performances. His entire body of work, it's like, wow, it's very impressive. But he's I just don't. He's out of shape. He's fat in the latest. I was like, I don't really see that. I personally don't want that. I'd rather they don't do that. Like, fucking Denzel Washington will out-act Keanu Reeves like any day of the week, but Keanu Reeves is gonna beat the shit out of him. I couldn't tell you what the fuck happened at Time Bomb. Me neither. I couldn't tell you either. That's another movie. I'm like, okay. Yeah, the 7-minute tracking shot fight. Yeah, actors you can hardly talk. Gal, definitely not. Gal. Get out of here. Absolutely not. Joe wouldn't stand a chance. Give me a fucking break. Now you're messing with me. You're being funny. You're being very funny, Dylan Murray. You and I both know that's not true. Come on. He's the master of just 75%. I know. He said, all right, I'll go full now. You're right. I was being generous. I shouldn't have said 75. He's sitting down for like 90% of that movie. And I like that third film. I actually liked it. I thought it was fun. Not what you would expect, too. Not what you would expect, but I liked it a lot. He's master of chair fu. Yeah, he is. I'm not saying Denzel's like, as like fat and rotund as So Funny, because he was brought up again recently because we saw him at the Russian Pride Parade or whatever the fuck. It's like, have you guys seen what Steven Seagal looks like now? Holy shit, he keeps getting rounder. Oh my god. Like, Denzel's not that level. I'm not being that mean, all right? But, he ain't Steven Seagal level yet. He's a master of chair fu. Oh, man. Yeah, he literally went on vacation, the third one. The one thing people really want, the people in question is mostly just Dilbert. You must, 100%. Cheeky, being very cheeky, being very funny. That's why the Equalizer is the action hero I most want to be. He gets to just say, no, 100%. Like, it's very realistic. I'm not, King Kong ain't got nothing on. Now, yeah, if we did 2000, like early 2000s era, like if Denzel Washington did those, like him against Man on Fire, which I still would give the edge to Keanu Reeves, but fucking Denzel will give it his all. He'll throw 100%, 110%. Equalizer could still beat the shit out of Steven Seagal. Yes. I'm serious. John Wick is a bull in a charge. Equalizer is basically a slasher now. The only way, and I still don't think it would work, the only way the Equalizer could ever defeat John Wick, which again, I don't think is ever going to happen, is if he surprises him like a Michael Myers. Yeah, yes, he needs the element of surprise. Like Steven Seagal, who does sniper movies because it lets him sit down the whole time. Yep, so true. So then he'll be around enough to have an orbit. I know, yeah, gravitational pull. I really don't want to see that gravitational. Me neither. I don't want to see it either. It's like, nah. I think it would be more fun if Bob Odenkirk's character from the Nobody films like was in this universe. I think that's the one that makes the most sense to me. You know, or Chris Hemsworth's character from the Extraction movies. Right? Yeah, anybody can beat the shit out of Steven Seagal. You just push him over, he can't get up. I would be a better match against Wick than Equalizer. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that film. But sure. Nowadays, you can push Steven Seagal over and he gets stuck in his back like a turtle. Yeah, very, very turtle-like. He's very turtle-like. He is definitely turtley enough for the Turtle Club. 100%. But yeah, Chad Ballerina. There's some cool action in it, grenade stuff, flamethrower stuff. Very fun to watch, but yeah. I'd wait for VOD if you want to watch it.